Good afternoon, everybody. This is Sathish.B.Krishnan here, AAR 125 UPSC Civil Service Examination 2017. I've been a freelance faculty in Trivandrum, associating with various civil service academies, and at present I'm associating with Enliven Civil Service Academy, with whom I'm making this video. The video is primarily targeted towards those who are appearing for the 2018 prelims, which is supposed to happen on June 3rd. And these are a few tips I would like to give all of you people. So primarily with respect to the subjects, what I would suggest is that now you have only very few days. You make a list of the things that you need to revise, and this list should include various aspects from each subject. For example, you take history. There are different things like monuments, like various inscriptions, pillar inscription, things like that, various rock cut architecture and things like that, the taxation systems from ancient India and medieval India, and the reformations that's particularly belonging to the medieval India, that is the Delhi Sultanate and Mughals. And also from the ancient, again you have certain things like various books, the scientific advancements of the time, etc. So these things will comprise the ancient and medieval India. And from the modern part, what I will suggest is that you can actually do a lot of things with the spectrum. With spectrum, the last few pages, you have various things like the administrative reforms, judicial reforms, police reforms, press, etc. that has been there and that has been evolved during the British times, and various magazines, journals, etc. The reformations and the major works done by various governor generals and viceroys, and various movements that were started, that is the various rebellions, sannyasi rebellions and things like that, various tribal and peasant movements. So these things will cover more or less the history things to be revised or to be kept aside for a quick revision. Now similarly for geography, you have things like the major oceans and their marginal seas, the major mountain ranges including the volcanic mountain ranges, major rivers. All these rivers, mountains and things should be learned with respect to India as well. And correspondingly, in addition, you should also be aware of the tributaries of the rivers, the left-wing tributaries, the right-wing tributaries and all these things, the corresponding states through which the rivers are flowing, particularly the rivers in the northwest and northeastern India. This has been one major turf for UPSC for asking questions almost every other year. Associated with the same thing, you can also learn about the sanctuaries, biosphere reserves, national parks, etc. of India, and correspondingly peculiar or specific animal species that are protected in these things. In addition, with respect to India, the geographic landforms and their exact classification, a good knowledge on this will also be helpful. For example, if you are exactly aware which region, the Bundelkhand region or Bagelkhand region, which particular states are covered in this region, that could be particularly helpful. So also the tribes of India, the languages, the tribes which are of protected nature, the festivals. So these things should also be covered with respect to Indian human geography part. The tribes are also important with respect to the major tribes, the nomadic tribes, etc. are important also with respect to the rest of the world as well. That is the African region, the Southeast Asian region, the South American region, etc. So that is regarding the major list to be covered with respect to geography. An attachment to that is the ecology and environment part. You could have a list of recent meetings, summits, etc. that has happened associating with various ecological or biodiversity related areas. The places from which these have happened. You can also have a list of protected species and place where they are peculiarly found. So these things could also be made into a list, and also the biodiversity hotspots. So those things can also be added to the list. So that's regarding the geography and ecology environment ideas. Now moving on to the polity side, I would say that few chapters that need to be revised. One is Parliament, and other is the chapter regarding the fundamental rights. And then you can directly go to the last part, that is the appendix part, where you have the major amendments that has been made to the Constitution of India. You can just go through all these amendments, identify the major amendments of these and mark them for revision. So that I would suggest that you do very seriously, because again that has been one area from which a lot of questions has been asked, and that too almost continuously. With respect to polity, that will be more or less sufficient. And now with respect to economy, again the thing to be revised is various economic reports that are issued by various organizations. You see World Bank, ASEAN, and all these things have their own, each organization, each body, they have their own reports. So you should also be aware of these bodies and the reports and who actually constitute this. So that thing will be very important with respect to the economic part. And also when it comes to the banking side, the various forms of the banking reforms, the committees, who heads these committees, these are also important. And various things like CRR, SLR and all these things, their clauses. So these things will more or less complete the economics list to be covered. So I guess these are various aspects that could be done in a quick summary condition. And now in addition to that, once you are inside the exam hall, what could be done is you should be very cautious regarding the questions and the clauses, the options. For example, the question itself many times might have some clues to the answer. For example, the question, if they have some world, global, etc. In the answer also you should be cross-checking for those organizations which are of more global outlook. Similarly, when every time you read the option, try to identify if the option has a very closed-end statement, or if it is a very blanket statement. For example, only, nothing, everything. So these are like blanket statements. There is a higher chance that such blanket statements might go wrong. That doesn't mean all blanket statements are wrong. There is only a higher chance. Similarly, many times we might get slightly mistaken because we might not catch the phrases like not correct or correct. We might get confused in between. So what I will suggest is that every time you read the question, you identify the keywords and underline them. These are the few things that I can suggest that immediately you go through, and even when you are attending the exam. And I'd seriously suggest that your number of attempts should at least be 80 plus and preferably 90 plus. It's always about trying to make better guesses, and these guesses come only from assumptions, deductions, getting the odd things out. So these things will finally help you land into a relatively more correct answer. Because otherwise there will be, it doesn't matter what number of years you have spent, irrespective of that, the maximum amount of answers or those answers which you can say completely that I know this will not be exceeding more than 50%. So for the rest of the answers, you will have to make the guesses. So be open enough and be ready to make such guesses. I wish all you a very good exam and a very successful life ahead. Thank you.